All right. Gone live, doing a thing back at the Trustee Podcast for part two of William's Dilemma, which it seems we've kind of strayed away from the topic. I don't know if we get too much back into it, but I do want to finish this video. But before that, I want to address what William said. And as far as I did I explained it poorly in the last video, but basically from what we read and what it tells us. So you say when we domesticate animals from the wild, right? And we have them domesticated over generations and we select the types that we want. We take out the natural element that's independent of our selection on variables, right? So in a way, it seems like you have a greater variety because we can select for the types of traits that we are looking for, right? It doesn't happen in nature that way. And you have to adapt to certain circumstances that may be unfavorable, and therefore you get random mutation, which is not selected for, which is a kind of another issue, right? Which is why we can't. So I don't want to oversimplify that, but it's the controlled conditions that make the varieties we see in domestication possible, right? So, and we can go more in depth with that one. I'm going to put the link up here. This is for William. I don't have your contact information, so if you want to come discuss on that, definitely down to do so. Probably open it up to other members who are on the panel as well. But I do want to get back to Jill's ideas about taxonomy and such later on. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the video, but it's going to be further discussed here. So get back into it. Pick up pretty much right where we left off. Oh, that's not the right button.
Category. So just saying that because we're all apes, they should have to abide by the same laws as us is just a ridiculous.
It is. Yeah, it is ridiculous. Yeah. That's where I leave evolution because of that absurdity.
No, but you're making it absurd. Absurd. We're not.
Yes. Hi, Sandy. Good to see you. They are just ideas.
You're just trying to find a way of making something sound absurd that actually isn't.
Well, you're saying that we're all apes, but we're just special type.
Yeah, but we're also mammals as well. So no, don't be ridiculous, Joe. How is that special pleading? You've got humans, which are a subcategory of apes, and then you've got gorillas, which is a subcategory of apes, and you've got orangutans, and they're a subcategory of apes. So they come under the umbrella of apes. They also come under the umbrella of mammals. So we're going to then extend this ridiculous idea that you've got that we should apply laws to apes, and then start applying the same laws to mammals. So are we going to start giving dogs?
Yeah, all mammals. I like Paul's point there. I do want to show this. We might come back to it, but we were talking about bone structure earlier, and I didn't show this one. But here you have the side by sides of the skeletons, and yep, basically identical. It is uncanny. Look at just a difference in the jaw and the elongation of the skull, the size of the skull, and the size of the creature in general, right? But look at the actual structure of the skeletons. I mean, I don't see how one can deny it.
Driving lessons, so they can drive if they want, because they need to have a driving license under the law to be able to drive a vehicle. See how ridiculous?
I say eat the ape, and I say eat the dog if you're in China. But so I don't put any.
I mean, that argument is so invalid though, because it's not even like you wouldn't. Sure, you'd probably prefer to eat another animal if you had the choice, but if you were starving to that point where you're just going to eat the first food source that comes available to you, and that happens to be a human. I mean, we've got plenty of instances where man will eat man. I mean, so I don't know why you would just. I mean, you're saying that from a privileged position where you're not actually starving to say, oh, well, I'd eat just about anything else, but I wouldn't eat another human. Well, a lot of humans in history will beg to differ.
Any of those creatures.
And I don't have a problem with somebody doing that.
Oh no, you can't. No, you can't have
No,
a
I
problem
can't.
because they're not.
No,
They're not super apes.
I said I didn't have a problem with if a certain
you can't have
culture
a
eats a certain animal, then that's for
right.
them. Yeah.
Right. You can't have a problem with that because they're not super apes. The
Well, I
only
can have a
people-
problem with that because I could be a
Why?
vegetarian and I could have a problem with you eating
What?
any animals. So you see, I'm not a vegetarian, but I'm saying I could be a vegetarian. So I could
Can
say,
I
yes,
throw
I do have a
a
problem.
wrench in this?
Is it wrong to eat an ape?
It's wrong to eat any animal according to Genesis 1. We're only supposed to eat seed-bearing plants.
Until after the
Okay. All right. I'm not.
Yeah,
talking about-
exactly, P-Town.
I'm not talking about Christians. I'm
Is
talking
that
about
in
for the
Genesis?
atheists.
I want to see where that is. I'm not familiar with that passage, but it sounds like it could be legit. Genesis, vegetarian quote. Yeah, works for me. It's a passage, right? It's a biblical passage. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 2:16-17. So yeah, there it is. And so he said, well, until the flood, yeah, of course. You have to change the rules. Just keep changing the rules.
Is it wrong? Is it wrong to shoot and kill an ape? And why is it wrong to shoot and kill an ape?
Is it wrong for an atheist to eat an aborigine?
It's wrong
Ridiculous.
for an atheist.
This got to go ad
Christian.
absurdum
I mean,
with
this
all
is
this
kind of
shit.
silly.
No,
it
it's
depends
not.
on which philosophical school you're going. Which one?
It's not because you want to put them in the same category as apes, or put us in the same category as them because we're both.
No, I
apes.
didn't put us in the
But
same
then-
category. I said we have a subcategory. I didn't say we're in the same category. Humans have a subcategory of apes.
Greetings, Von Eric. Blessings to you. Yeah. Were you there for this stream? I don't remember. I know I've seen you around recently. So welcome.
Okay,
So
are
you've got different
Aborigines-
categories of it.
Okay, are Aborigines different categories of humans?
No, they're humans. We're all the same.
They are a different
only-
subcategory.
Or different subcategory of the category.
his,
No, Aborigines are not a subcategory of human. Aborigine. I mean, well, yeah, okay, you could say it's a subcategory. It's a so Aboriginal is anybody who's. I mean, if I believe the definition of Aboriginal, relating to indigenous peoples. Generally, we're talking about Australians, but we've kind of adapted the term. I mean, any peoples who were indigenous to a region, basically prior to becoming a civilization, if you would call it that, like an advanced civilization with agriculture and industry and such, inhabiting or existing in land from the earliest times or from before the arrival of colonists or indigenous. It's a synonym. So when you say it's a subcategory of humans, yeah, but they're still identical humans. They're a minority of humans, right? So it's subcategorical. Yes, it's not a biological subcategory such as the other species we're talking about. That's a different thing.
Historically, yes, people of one phenotype have historically disparaged and treated other humans of other
I thought I saw you there, yeah.
subcategories very poorly. And
Okay,
even
So I'm
cannibalism,
asking.
yeah.
So I'm asking that you have a category of ape, just like you have a category of human, and
Sure.
and the subcategories are the different groups.
No, see, right. It's the different groups of species in the family primates, right? Under the umbrella of apes, right? So it'd be like, so then you go even deeper, and all humans are just humans, right? And they're already in this deep subcategory biologically, But now we're talking about different social and regional and environmental differences and the way that these peoples evolved over time as subgroups within a population that is all human, right? Part of a branch of the biological, so it goes higher. So you trying to just break it down to, well, these human constructs, well, that doesn't apply to all biological organisms.
Of humans. So we have a category of ape, and underneath that umbrella, there are different types of apes. Why is killing one type of ape wrong and killing another type of ape is
Well,
okay?
well, actually,
I would actually argue differently there, because I would argue that it was apparently I left the stream for a while. Oh yeah, I think I got kicked out and I had to come back or something. Anyway, I would argue that it is more morally reprehensible for a human to kill a non-human ape, because it is more likely that the human can rationalize a way to resolve the conflict without taking the life of, say, a gorilla or a chimp, right? The human, being the more intelligent and evolved creature, should be able to find a way out of the situation which doesn't involve death or some type of critical injury to the animal, right? Because we still perceive our fellow modern apes as animals, albeit pretty smart ones.
I'd say it is, because I don't think I can't be 100% on this. I don't think it's legal to actually go and kill silverback gorillas just because you want to go do it.
It was, but it has been outlawed in a lot of places now. It's been greatly shunned. But up until not so long ago, I remember this coming up, like maybe in the early 2000s, where there were still a couple of countries that had not outlawed it. And they had to make a point to say, hey, why haven't you outlawed this practice? This is horrific.
I think you'd possibly be prosecuted for doing that.
Hey, Silver Wolf, good to see you.
He would. So it's wrong because the law says it's wrong.
Yeah, the law says it's wrong. So
in a
What if the law
naturalistic,
didn't say it? What if the law
in a natural state, then no, it wouldn't be wrong. If it would just go back to nature, wild animals, then none of that would be wrong. We wouldn't have laws, would we? So there wouldn't be a wrong or right when it comes to that.
So if it were just humans, if you had a world in which you had the planet of the apes, and you had all of the evolutionary, what do you call them, transitional creatures, the ape, the man icon, which has become your argument. The icon itself has become your argument, in my opinion. If we had all those apes on the same planet, right? They're all under the category ape. Why is it wrong for one of those categories or types of apes to stone or kill another? Why is that wrong?
The answer will be different depending on which philosophical school you are addressing.
Yeah, and so that's a question to objective morality, which I don't think anybody, any of the atheists represented on this panel would adhere to. I don't think any of us are going to say, yeah, no, there's an objective moral standard in atheism. Like it doesn't work like that. And ethics is so much more complex than people paint it out to be. Where do you get your morals from? Turns out to be a pretty complex question in and of itself. They just be like, well, I'm not going to argue with you on that one, but if you get your morals from the Bible, you're probably going the wrong direction. I don't know.
I thought what you was going to ask, that if the planet of the apes was chosen, in other words, like the gorillas and what have you, had overrun the earth, would it be wrong for gorillas to kill human beings? Then no, it would.
Yeah,
it would be wrong for us. We would find it wrong because it'd be something that was being done to us, the same as they would find it wrong because it'd be something we'd be doing to them. But so if they were the dominant primate of the earth, then in their law, it wouldn't be wrong to kill humans. We would find it wrong because we're humans. But would it be wrong or right? Then no. Yeah, that would just be down. Yes, it would. So in that case, no, it wouldn't be. It would only be wrong for us.
It's backstage. Yeah, he's trying to get in. His connection dropped, and then he came back.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that, Trusty. So it would be survival of the fittest. That's the rule. That's the
under the survival of the fittest
under the way that was done. Yes.
Okay.
So it's not wrong.
But if we view right or wrong as a moral position or moral preferences, then like Paul said, it would be wrong from our perspective, but it would be fine according to theirs. Then if we wanted to go under reciprocity, where you do unto others as you would have them do unto you, then it would be wrong, period, including it would be wrong for us to kill apes or cats or anything else that we didn't want killing us.
Why is it okay to murder cows but not people? Because humans can communicate. And that's he's being kind of sarcastic there, but that's my position.
And some humans will do. And some human beings would actually agree with that. They would say that you're absolutely right, that it is wrong to kill cows. You just speak to a vegetarian or a vegan, they'll tell you it's wrong to kill other animals.
But don't you see, you really don't have a basis for determining right versus wrong if you take this position that all animals are, or all these creatures are basically on the same level. But
it's not about levels. I mean, we're talking about biological relations, right? And you guys make it about, well, which one's superior? Like when we talk about human superiority, which by the way is a myth of our own invention, right? We're talking about the fact that we can measure our traits of intelligence and articulate that in such a way that it means, hey, look at me. I can read, I can write, I can get a grade, and I can use those tools and apply them in other areas. There are tools that every animal in nature possesses specific to them. There are, we don't have echolocation. We're not like, I am inferior in the sense that I do not possess echolocation. Maybe I would be, but in that case, maybe I wouldn't have a normal field of vision as humans know it today. And then I would be limited in that aspect. So these are just different variations of the tools we use to navigate our way through life in general, right? That doesn't make one higher than the other. That's a myth.
With slight variations,
one greater
slight
than
distinctions, and slight elevations.
I didn't put them on the same level though.
Right. That's in our own current species, the way that we've got different levels of intelligence and dexterity and athleticism and things like that. I mean, there's variations that you can break down in larger spectrums or smaller spectrums if you choose to.
And it seems to me that, fundamentalists they're more, what they're interested in is in control and manipulation, which I find very interesting, right? Because the whole idea of the God concept says you must be subjugated to another being that is better than you, that can do more than you, that is smarter and faster and stronger than you by magnitudes of order, right? That's the Christian worldview. And so now they have to impose that worldview as being, in their perception, the smartest, fastest, strongest creature on earth. Maybe not the strongest. We've already ruled that one out, right? Definitely not the fastest. Nope. Cheetah's got us beat, but we're still smarter and we can still manipulate and control you. And that's their criterion for being superior. Superiority in their eyes means being able to manipulate and control other beings.
Right, but we never break it down to the point where we say killing one of those dumb people is okay. We do that with the other.
Some of us do.
Apes. We do that with the other animals. We do say that, hey, look, slaughter that pig. Pork is good for you. I mean, we do that.
Are not
we're
you
that kind of animal.
Equate pigs with apes. Pigs are not apes, right? They're not in the same classification. Now, I agree that it's probably immoral to say that it is okay to slaughter other animals with no precondition other than we are hungry, right? We don't tend to slaughter other apes. That's already a taboo. That's
It is
that's
taboo.
already a taboo in those cultures.
It is taboo, but why? What's the
Because we
underlying?
recognize their
Go ahead.
similarity to ourselves.
Oh, okay. So because they're similar to us in various ways, we can't kill them.
We do kill them.
I believe there are studies where eating the parts, whether it be the flesh or like specifically the brains of other primates, also has like a strange psychological effect on people. And we measure this as the same as in cannibals. If you eat, monkey brains, which isn't even technically a primate, right? Or it's not an ape, right? I guess it's a primate, that's what you call a lesser primate. Yeah, that's the categorization. But it's not what you would call an ape. But you can still get similar effects. So you have psychological outcomes from eating the meat or parts of that animal that are only explained in that you get something like a bloodlust. I think that's shown in humans.
We're not supposed to kill them.
But most of us see it as reprehensible. There's
We kill
an
each other.
inherent feature in our morality that tells us that this is wrong.
But we kill
It
each
seems-
other at a higher rate than we kill them.
That's what we believe. We believe that there's something inherent. I'm asking, where does it come from an evolutionary perspective? Where does that come from? That saying.
We
Well, that
definitely don't. We definitely don't kill more humans than we do cows or pigs. That's a falsehood.
Oh yeah, I thought you were talking
we-
about monkeys for some reason. I don't know why I would.
Oh yeah. No,
gotta
and
be
as far as
closer.
yeah, that's considered extremely taboo in most cultures, as I said, because we recognize the similarities. But it's also considered to be a delicacy in those cultures that still practice in it. So, I mean, consider that cannibalism is still a delicacy in some parts of the world, right? But that doesn't make it right. Most people don't do it.
Or tasty. So I've heard.
Do apes bury their? Do apes bury their dead ones? Dead loved
Some do,
ones?
yes.
They
Some
mourn them.
do.
I
And
saw a
some will
documentary.
bury them under a pile of rocks.
Yeah,
Some do.
yeah. I saw a documentary showing that apes were burying. I said, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
They mourn. Like they have periods of mourning too.
That's a very biblical view, I would say. I mean, I could
But what
see
does
that.
dominion mean? You have to go into the words and see what the whole thing actually means. What does dominion mean?
I would say dominion, in my interpretation, means more like a sense of responsibility, of stewardship.
Exactly. That's exactly what it means.
But that's not the way they see it. They see dominion as power, as control, as superiority, which could be viewed as responsibility if you were being charitable. But in Jill's worldview and P-Town's worldview, apparently, no, that just means that you can just eat whatever you want as long as it's not another person, whatever, just kill them. Fuck 'em.
I hope that Peter, you don't ever adopt any kids or have any foster kids, because I don't want you eating them. And I'm teasing, of course. I know that you would never do that.
He just wants them for
Being
himself,
hyperbolic.
Peter.
I know.
Tasty children.
Yummy, yummy.
We get
Aren't
hands
a lot
on
of
Gretel.
apes vegetarian? Am I wrong about that? There's a great percentage of apes that are vegetarian.
Quite a few.
Most apes.
Yeah, it's probably more profitable for them. I mean,
That's most apes. And actually, I have another one here from my search from Discover. This is the grizzly diverse world of meat-eating primates, which is kind of a rarity and usually doesn't end out well. So, boop, those are posted in the side chat. If you want to source the shit I'm saying, I don't just pull it all out of my behind, but yeah, I'm kind of operating on relative memory of certain things.
it's hard for them to get meat. They don't cook, right? So
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't. It's not about cooking. That we're. Yeah, I don't think that
Well,
that was
because
stopping
they
a lot of
can't.
humans
It
either.
partially is.
There's a lot of meat that you can't eat without getting parasites, and they probably know that
Yeah.
through instinct.
Right, but other
So-
animals do. Like other animals, kill and eat meat, and they, like I'm
But
saying,
there's
it's in their
their
environment.
saliva.
But
Yeah, but their
Again, they're
saliva
not
can
geared
kill
for
them.
it, though, right? They're not.
Right,
They're not wired
exactly.
for meat. Is what I was. Okay, that's
They're-
kind of where I wanted to go with it. They're just not wired for meat.
there's a difference in the way the gut works and the gut bacteria, especially in things like cows, deers. A lot of quadrupeds have a
Ruminants.
different gut biome, so they process meats differently than we do. They're not susceptible to the same diseases and parasite things.
Yeah, like goats have or cows have four stomachs, and goats I think have compartmentalized stomachs too. It's totally different
Right.
what they can consume. So yeah, I get that. It's just, but that's what I'm saying. Like there's a difference there in the way that they would look at other animals as food, and the way that we look at other animals as food. Like we eat meat. A lot of us are very, very favorable to meat. So I think that our culture has developed, our society has developed a lot around that. And so if we can't find some reason to spare you, we'll eat you.
So there are historical reasons, and that's part of why, as I was saying earlier, we get husbandry in the Bible, in other Judeo-Christian texts, because the keeping and cultivating of livestock has been present, at that point for quite some time, right? And they're like, look, I keep these animals in such a way it works for me. I can sustain them. I can have families of them, and then I can turn this over. My children can have animals out of this deal. I can leave these ox to my children, and they'll breed more ox, and then we can use these for meat and hides and such. So this practice is now being spread, and people are like, I'm telling you, this is the way to do it, right? And that's when hunting and gathering begins to go out of fashion, and then we have agricultural revolution. So I mean, it just coincides with just a particular point in human history. And now that we realize, hey, this has had its benefits, but now we're seeing the drawbacks of mass agriculture and stuff like that, factory farming, right? Only now are we dialing it back, but it's taken all these thousands of years for us to literally just figure it out and put pen to paper and actually document the stuff. And they're like, why is the stuff that worked for us, 2 millennia ago not working now? Maybe we should try something different. And what do we do? Oh, wow, we're going back to more plant-based living. We're trying to learn to grow more, cultivate, what is it, that stuff they grow? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, we're moving away from the animal husbandry, right? And a lot of people are pushing back against this. Because why? They like meat. They like it. It satisfies them. It suits their tastes, and they cannot seem to find some type of substitute that is not based in the killing of other sentient creatures, right? And I'm guilty of it too. I'm not a vegetarian by any stretch of the imagination. I was for about a year, but that was a few years ago. I've drastically reduced my consumption of meat, but like Jill, I kind of eat what I'm given. It's not usually, people's pets. But, I have been hungry a time or two and just eaten whatever people would give me. But if I have my choice in the matter, I would rather consume far less meat, if any.
You can look at the other scavenging mammals, raccoons included, that can eat things that we would consider putrid and rotten. They would destroy us, right? but those raccoons with their thumbs, they can go in the garbage can and just eat things that we have to discard because their stomachs can handle it. They're good.
So do homeless people.
Yeah.
I'm always fighting over the last bit of Krispy Kreme at the bottom of the box for these guys.
Right, I'm going again. We're about to go out.
Silver, I'm not sure where you're lost at, but I'm kind of stuck on this one particular topic amongst all the other things we're shuffling about with. But husbandry, because it's not a very common term anymore, it basically just means farming. That's all it means. It sounds weird because they call it husbandry, but that was just what they called it back in the day. So yeah, that was my whole rant and spiel about that. And So yeah, but it's kind of not directly related to what we're talking about here, but because William brought it up, I wanted to talk about it and to why these guys think that the reason they're superior to animals is because they can farm them or just kill them and eat them, I guess, basically. Like, but animals can kill and eat you, so you're not actually superior to them. Somebody brought up bears earlier in the conversation. It's like, yeah, a bear could just, and Sam Harris says that it's nothing more natural than getting mauled and eaten by a bear in the woods. But humans just usually, hopefully, we're a little bit smarter than that. Bears don't typically tend to target humans, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't know. That was just a side note.
Well, so I'll be leaving this time. I won't be coming back in.
Take care, Paul.
Okay, catch you later, Paul.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I brought up cannibalism because Jill inferred by his statement that he just would not ever eat another person. Just never, never, ever. If I was starving, I'd eat your pet, but I wouldn't eat you. That's falsehood. If you're truly starving and you have no other source of food, it is highly likely that you will at least attempt to consume another person if they are available to you. And it's been documented. It happens more frequently in history than we would care to admit. Check out cases of cannibalism, especially in like disasters. There's that movie Alive with the people on the plane, which is like loosely based on a true story. But yeah, they crashed a freaking plane in the middle of nowhere. They couldn't figure out how to get out of there. And one by one, they started dying from various causes, whether it was like injury or hypothermia or whatever. And then they started consuming that meat. And then they were like, well, I think, they were stuck there sufficiently long enough that they were like, I don't remember how many people died and how many were consumed, but they were like weighing the options of like, how many of us are still alive? How long can we sustain on this meat? Like once you're out there in the thing, it's a much different story. So I don't want to hear this BS argument from Jill. See, and I don't want to be a dick about it, and it's Jill's stream, right? But that's why I'm pushing back here to say, no, that's actually not the reason you don't eat people. Your moral objection has nothing to do in light of nature. So if your nature is simply to consume something and you don't have something to consume, your Christian morality is not going to get you out of it. I can almost guarantee you. If you're that hungry and you're already considering eating a house pet, then you'll probably eat the owner of that pet. Inevitably at some point. Maybe you wouldn't, but I think it's a 50-50.
All right. Catch you all later. Bye. Bye.
I should go too. My monkey just woke up and is throwing a fit. So
Hey, accurate.
Yeah, that was very honest. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's not common. It has been more common in other times in history because of food shortage, right? When there's food shortage or in particularly in instances of war, when cities are being sieged and they're trying to hold out their defenses. Look at the instances of cannibalism in war. When people are locked into cities and they run out of food and they're actively fighting an engagement, the soldiers will kill the people. And typically they're young people, disabled people who can't fight to sustain the soldiers, to sustain the army. That's what we've done. There's plenty of instances of it, but it is a small percentage. We don't tend to do it. I think maybe in history it was more common, and throughout our development, it has become less common, and we don't hear about it too much. And we do hear about it in the ancient texts. Even then, it's usually considered to be a repugnant act. They don't speak about it in favorably. So species on species is just never it's never pretty. It's an ugly thing, but it's a reality in the state of nature and the world that we came to.
It's kill it. Nothing wrong with killing that monkey.
No, don't kill it. Don't listen
A
to
little
Jill.
4.5-year-old monkey.
Nothing wrong with it. It's not a super. It's not a super.
You have to
ape,
eat
so
it though. If you kill it, you have to eat it. That's the rule.
Yeah, beat down.
It's not a super ape. I
Yeah.
can kill it. Nothing you can do about it.
I'll give her a kiss on the cheek for me.
I don't care if it's your
That
pet.
seems weird. I'm just kidding.
Wolfie's gonna kill it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Jill, you've been a really, really good host.
Yeah.
I'm always a good host.
Nah, it's not true.
Yeah.
We all have our
I'm-
good
In
days
the
and our
fullness
bad
of
days.
time. In the fullness of time, Jill is trans temporarily. Great host.
I actually have to agree there. Jill was very gracious on this one. I think it was a good conversation. We may still disagree on these things, but we're able to get through the course of conversation and run it around and mull it over in our brains. Maybe have something more to think about next time, like right now.
Yeah.
I want
You
to. I want to
You
share
clever
something.
So I would say I've never had an unpleasant conversation with Jill, even when we disagree.
No, as long as there's not too many liberals in the room cutting me off, I'm
Oh yeah.
pretty.
Oh, there we go. There we go. It's the liberals. The liberals are coming. But that's why you're always welcome here too, because actually, at this stage, I think you probably give that mofo a wrench. I mean, one of the only Christians who I see consistently on this channel, Jill P.2 have been consistently over on this channel. Jamie Russell, and again, we disagree, but I don't distrust him as far as the YouTube sphere goes.
Pretty reasonable guy.
It's not like they're doing it.
But I want to show you something. This is Ted
Just talking
Bundy.
about giving Theus wrench,
Everybody
huh?
knows who Ted Bundy is, right?
I must
Sure.
be feeling good.
Oh yeah, he
Hell's
ate
brother.
too, right?
I got my flu shot a little while ago, so I think it's kicking in.
I want the
brother, right?
atheist. I want the atheist response to Ted Bundy's. That this letter was written to his victims. Believe it or not, this is how sick this man was. He wrote a letter to his victims. And they actually found this letter, and now it's like, circulating all of the philosophical.
So I'm going to get totally sideways here because he says Bundy. And for some reason, we were talking about cannibalism. So I know it's probably why my mind went immediately to Dahmer. And I start so I remember this part of the conversation kind of like, whoop, whoop, oh, my bad. I'm thinking about the wrong thing.
Psychological
Stuck on eating
calls
people.
and upper academia,
Go ahead and
Man,
show it so we can
it's-
start reading it.
Is it
really
video or a
intrigued
text?
by this. It's a text.
Will you read it first, Jill?
Yeah, I'm posting. I'm
Okay, cool.
sharing it now.
I do better reading than listening though, so I need to.
Would that make you agnostic, Sandy? I don't know. I don't know if we've ever had that conversation.
See it.
Yeah, I'm multitasking too, so I'm trying to keep up with what you're doing. You're just coming at me so fast, but now it's Ted Bundy. I wasn't ready, Jill. There was no warning.
Can you see that on the screen?
It's only
blank.
black for me right now.
What's up, Hubbles?
Hey, Sammy.
Someone just came into the room.
It's Sammy.
Sammy did.
Now we got something. Now there's text.
Okay, this is Ted Bundy. This is his letter to his victims.
Mhm.
He wrote.
Well, if you wish, you can identify. You can identify here or not. That's completely up to you. So, a gentleman doesn't ask. Is that how it? Never mind. It's a different thing, but you know what I mean. Okay, so he's going to read this letter from Ted Bundy, and whatever. Just let it happen.
He wrote. He said that he learned that all moral judgments are value, quote unquote, value judgments. All
Fair enough.
value judgments are subjective, and that none can be proved to either be right or wrong. I discovered that to become truly free, to become unfettered or unhinged, I had to become truly uninhibited. And And I quickly discovered that the greatest obstacle to my freedom, the greatest block and limitation to it consists. This guy was pretty smart for a serial killer. Usually they're the ones who are the serial killers, the real smart ones. So you keep bragging about.
Yeah, that's an interesting side note, but let's go there because you keep saying that it's the higher intelligence makes us so much more advanced and superior to these other apes, right? And then at the same time, you're like, but the smartest ones, they usually end up being serial killers. That's kind of what you just, I mean, and you're not wrong. I mean, sort of. Not entirely wrong. There's a lot of smart people who are extremely devious. Cleverness is one of the things that we attribute to intelligence, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good person and that you don't go around freaking killing people like Mr. Bundy.
Bragging about how intelligent you are, liberal.
No comment.
That's why they
Liberal.
can do it all over and over again because they can't be caught easily.
All right. So he says that I discovered the greatest obstacle to my freedom, the greatest block to and limitation to it, consists in the unsupportable. He's right. Value judgment that I was bound to respect the rights of others. I asked myself, who were those others? Other human beings with human rights. Why is it more wrong to kill a human animal than any other animal, a pig, a sheep, or a steer? Is your life more to you than a hog's life is to a hog? Why should I be willing to sacrifice my pleasure more for one or for the one than for the other? Surely.
This is classic because it actually seems like a legit troll on Bundy's part if you think about it. This is Ted Bundy arguing like for veganism because, hey, if I can kill you, then, or if I can kill a pig, then why can't I kill you, man? What? Okay, yeah, you can go that way, I guess. Yeah. That's another way of looking at it. Sure. I don't know if Bundy ever ate any of his victims. I don't know why I'm struggling to say victims. But he was a necrophile, so there's that. So yeah, he didn't eat them. He just had his way with them in other ways. But maybe he ate some of them. I don't recall. I want to say maybe yes. But he just wasn't like a habitual cannibal. I don't think. Should we look it up? I don't know. Well, now that I've asked the question, I feel like I should. Basic search because he doesn't have to be an actual cannibal. If he committed cannibalism, it'll probably be documented. There's no evidence that he consumed any body parts, despite he was a sexual predator, and so that was generally what he did with them, which is not better than eating people. But I don't know if you want to like weigh the moral value of those actions.
Surely you would not, in the scientific enlightenment, or this age of scientific enlightenment, declare that God or nature has marked some pleasures as moral or good and others as immoral or bad. In any case, let me assure you, my dear, I might take in eating ham and the pleasure I anticipate in raping and murdering you. That is the honest conclusion to which my education has led me after the most conscientious examination of my spontaneous and uninhibited self. That's Ted Bundy. What do you got? What do you think?
That's interesting. So first of all, I don't know about the legitimacy of this letter. Bundy killed mostly men. So the fact that he says "my lady," I mean,
Is it back? Okay, it's back. So right there's the big blunder. And I said Bundy out loud, but I'm still thinking Dahmer in my head right now. So just remember that. I'm just gonna let it play out. But this is a big faux pas on my part. Thinking Dahmer, referencing Bundy. That was my fault because we're talking about eating people, and it just so it just kind of got stuck there.
I don't know about that.
Wait.
Yeah.
No,
You know who
that's
Ted
not
Bundy
Bundy.
is?
Secondly,
You're thinking of
Not Ted
Jeffrey
Bundy?
Dahmer.
That's
That's
not.
Jeffrey
You're not
Dahmer.
thinking.
No,
Yeah, that's not.
Bundy killed women. Yeah,
Mostly Caucasian women. Yeah.
got you. Yeah, you're right. Okay, got that one mixed up.
Well, do you only want atheist perspectives, or do you want?
Oh no,
believers'
everyone can
perspectives?
chime
Okay.
in. What do you
There are
guys
three
think?
flaws.
Is he right?
Yeah, there are three flaws in this. Actually, what he's written is mostly correct, except for three issues. First off, when people hear moral judgments, most people don't understand what morals are. They think that morals are actually ethics. Moral judgment are simply preference statements. He's calling them value judgments. I'll call them preference statements as to what you feel is one way or the other. Just like Paul was saying, for the human, we would feel bad. We would think it was wrong for the ape to kill us, but the ape would feel it was wrong for us to kill it. Okay, so again, ethics is different from morality. Ethically, there are huge reasons, and ethics are not subjective. Ethics have to be applied universally, which takes it out of the category of subjective. Okay, so that's one issue. The other one was, where was it? Oh, why should I be more willing to sacrifice my pleasure? This is a little bit more than halfway down. Why should I be willing to sacrifice my pleasure more for the one than for the other, as the hog or the human? Why? Because that hog isn't going to put you in prison, and it isn't going to send you to the electric chair, but us very clever apes definitely will and did. And then the third one, how he's equating eating ham to the pleasure that he gets from raping and murdering. Okay, eating ham is an already dead body. So if he wanted to say performing necrophilia on a person, then okay, it would be roughly equivalent. But rape is usually of a live person, so it's wrong because of that. It's causing pain. And second, murdering is wrong. So those are the three flaws that I found in his thinking.
The only thing I would add there is in the second clause, I would say for me, I'm a speciesist, and I do have a preference for my own species. So I value their well-being over that of other species.
I found that really interesting in what Sammy just said there, in a work of fiction that I started writing a few years ago, which may still be around somewhere. I actually use that term in the novel I was writing, because we in my hypothetical fictional future here, we redefine homicide into specieside and speciesism. So in that hypothetical universe, it is actually unlawful for humans to kill orangutans or gorillas or something like that. So I think that's really interesting that he brought that up. And I know that it is a concept now that exists. I didn't pull it out of the ether, but it's not very common that people talk in that language.
Why should Bundy respect that? I think is what he's saying. Why should he respect that?
Well, he doesn't have to.
Well,
Your value
can
judgment.
Can I get in on this too?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's not necessarily a common thing for people to take pleasure in killing other people or even animals. I mean, to some people, there's that's not pleasurable at all. He didn't have like one of the components that seemed to be missing in his psychological makeup is empathy. There's no empathy for animal or human. They were all just objects to be used, and his reasoning is based on, I think, that lack of empathy. And if you take that out, then what he's saying makes perfect sense. But that also makes you a bit of a monster, eh? But
Yeah.
That's what's lacking. There's no sense that these are like me or anything else. Even though he makes comparison of other human beings and animals, he is above all of them, is the way that he sees himself.
Well, also in this letter, it's clear that he is rationalizing his own behavior through an analogy that is not equivalent, right? That he makes the false equivalence, but it's only to try to rationalize his own behavior to other people. False rationale.
Well, I think he just sees that if he can do it, then he ought to do it. And that's kind of, I think there's a disconnect there between the mentality that somebody is superior to another person, whereas he's saying, hey, we're all equal, but if I can do this to you, I ought to do this to you. Because
I think the initial conversation it was about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. We did this over on Jill's channel, and then I mirrored it here.
Because it is my freedom, it is my liberty. And that's where I think a lot of people who get desensitized to the experience of others have the same mentality on another level. They say, well, I'll tell you what you ought to do with your body, right? That's my right, because my liberty, my freedom. So I can tell you based on my beliefs what you ought to do, right? And that's the imposition of will. It's not one's own freedom.
Right, but he's writing here about a justification, but not his motivation. Like a lot of what he's doing, and he hints at it in this a little bit about pleasures being taboos. And so part of what motivated Bundy was that he knew that he was far more intelligent than most people, and he liked the thrill of being.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say he knew that.
No, he was, and was well aware of.
Yeah. So my comment on screen there, that's why Jill was displaying that. I'm not calling Jill out. I'm actually responding to Sidat when I'm saying this is completely unrelated to what we were talking about, because what we were talking about was taxonomy, and now we're talking about the ethical implications of eating meat, I guess, or something, and Ted Bundy being a necrophile. So I don't know. They might be moral. They might just be monstrous. Hello, Ox. Morale has been down. We must beat the troops harder. That will definitely get them to march. Yeah.
Of his ability to manipulate people, and even his judge said that he would have made a tremendous attorney too, because he was just one of the smartest people. He knew how to work people. He knew how to work them over. But
I mean, I could say he might have been highly intelligent, but I don't think the ability to manipulate people is surely a proof of intelligence, of high intelligence.
Oh no, it's not.
It's
just proof of psychopathy.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is, to him, it felt like he was superior, and he liked the idea that he could keep doing it, this taboo thing, and get away with it over and over. And that was a huge component of the pleasure for him.
Right, and that's the idea. They get off on their own cleverness, right? That is psychopathy 101. That's a pretty basic psychology. Everybody does this. We all get off on our own cleverness. It's just to what extent we use it against other people. And generally, we don't feel bad when we use it against what we consider to be lower forms of life, including our pets, which is why I have argued in the past that people should liberate their pets from captivity and retrain them to live in the wild, because I think that would ultimately be the best thing ethically. Now, unfortunately, many domesticated animals alive today reintroduced into the wild would perish. They would die. Only a select few, if any, some might even go extinct, breeds would actually be able to survive and reintegrate as a wild species, right? And I think that's something that's worth discussing. If we want to be of truly moral character, then we know that enslaving other people is wrong. We've gone so far as to which animals should we keep in zoos? Should we keep elephants? Because they're, obviously, like, it's not just, we generally like break that down to, oh, it's a big creature, and these big creatures happen to be pretty intelligent and pretty pissed off about being kept in captivity, and it seems to be inhumane, right? but it's the inconvenience of keeping them because they are physically superior to us. It's fairly easy for them to overpower us if they want to. And so that makes it more difficult for us to keep them, which introduces the question, why keep them at all? Why would you can observe these animals in nature. They will do just fine on their own. Why would you incarcerate them?
It was, I'm doing it and you can't even stop me. I mean, I'm doing it, and and there was no other outside force to stop him either, right? There was no, so this taboo is only in his mind something that we enforce on our own. There was no lightning.
So somehow we shifted, right? Because I said cannibalism, so I'll come to that, and then we go from we're talking about our relation to apes, and then we're talking about eating apes. We're talking about veganism, and now we're talking about cannibalism, right? You see how it's walked.
I was talking about rape and murder.
No, he didn't eat that was Dahmer you're thinking of. Dahmer was the one eating black folks.
Well, I mentioned cannibalism.
Now, I have to clarify there because I think that was a little bit misleading, because Jill had brought up cannibalism earlier and why we can't eat other apes, right? And we started the conversation about cannibalism, and then Jill brings this quote in here from Bundy, right, which I confuse with Dahmer, right? But the problem is that he's comparing the act of murder and rape to the act of consuming human flesh, or the act of consuming animal flesh, excuse me, right? And so I compared that in my mind, made the correlation to the act of eating human flesh, right? And then, as I said earlier, how would you judge whether it's worse to rape and murder a person or murder and eat a person? Both seem like equally just horrendous things to do. In either case, you've taken the life of the individual, and in both cases, you've done something inhumane with the flesh, I guess, is the only way I could describe that, which sounds kind of biblical when you think about it, but it doesn't actually say that in the Bible as far as I can tell. So that's not really helping us any. But anyway, apes and monkeys are harder to outside body train. I'd imagine so. I think there's chimps in the zoo. They've got like videos of them just either masturbating in front of people or urinating on people when they get kind of bored over there. It's like, yeah, whatever. They don't really care that you're watching them. Oh yeah, stick this in your eye. Throw some food at you. Throw some feces at you. Whatever. They're bored.
You brought up Ted Bundy, so that's why I think I got the two kind of conflated there. But I'm thinking he compared humans to pigs, and you had kind of mentioned that earlier, so it seems to tie together.
Yeah, it does, because he's saying that every creature is on the same level playing field as far as.
So I see the dilemma here as being that, rather than Jill saying that we have to compare animals to humans, rather we ought to be comparing humans to animals, which is what we do in naturalism, right? So it's not like, so if you're going to go by that logic, right, then we ought to treat animals with the humanity that we treat other humans, with the dignity that we treat other humans. Otherwise, we're being inconsistent, unless you believe that what you're doing does not cause harm to the animals. And I think that's telling. Jill tried to paint that picture earlier. He said, well, how can you prove that other apes experience emotion? Well, we can show exactly the same brain scans. All you can go by with humans is behavior and physiological studies, right? And it's the same thing you go by in animals. But he categorically denied that, right? But it seems now he's holding that same standard to Bundy. Well, if I don't see an animal or a human as being greater than an animal, then I have no reason not to kill a human. Wouldn't that be the reason not to kill an animal? Right? On the flip side of that argument, you'd say, oh, that's a good reason not to kill these animals. I just never thought about it that way. But God granted us dominion is the rationalization. Verse in Bible.
As value is concerned. And I think from a purely naturalist view, you would have to concede that that's the case. If you're just
And to be clear, I think Bundy could have, and other killers have actually used the verse in Bible argument to say, this is why I committed the killing. God ordained me. God gave me dominion in order to commit this killing. Or God, aside from the God told me in a dream thing, I think there are like verse in Bible Christian killers that would use the same argument using a different verse. And Bundy could have done it himself. Like, God told me I was ordained to do this, man. I read it in, somewhere in, I don't know, maybe Exodus or Judges or one of those, I don't know, fun books.
if you're just looking at it mainly from just physical makeup, composition, DNA, everything is so similar. So what basis do you have to reject Ted Bundy's claim here that there is no value judgments? Everyone's on the same level. If a
He's not saying that there is no value judgment. It's right there in the first line. I've learned that all moral judgments are value judgments. So he's not denying the value judgment. He's denying objective morality. He's saying these are subjective judgments. And that made him feel free because he felt like, well, nothing he did was really wrong as long as he didn't get caught, right? And then once he got caught, then he turned around and I'm told that during the execution he wept like a baby or whatever. But I don't know if any of that is true. But this is not an uncommon argument. This is actually a pretty common argument for subjective morality that he's using here. Not
if a pig kills a chicken, it's no different than a human killing a chicken or a human killing another human.
He acknowledges that his value judgment is subjective. So it is not an objective value judgment. It's merely subjective to him. Therefore, if everybody else, again, going back to consensus, if everybody else decides, no, your judgment is wrong, well then, Bundy goes to prison and he gets the chair, which I think he did, or one of the other. I think it was California. He got chair, lethal injection. I don't remember which.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, we did decide that his judgment was incorrect. It was incomprehensible. So the fact that he has this testimony doesn't really state the position of society at large. I mean, I don't think anybody on the panel is going to assume that position and try to defend it.
Well, one society may have accepted him and his behavior. So just pointing to the fact that society
sentenced him to death.
Yeah, there's no modern society that accepts that behavior. It doesn't happen. And even in what we'd call more or less advanced societies, it's still generally like a huge taboo. Plus, you would never get away with it in a much smaller minority group of people because everybody knows everybody in those groups. The way that Bundy got away with it was by being in large and complex social circles and moving from place to place, right?
This society sentenced him to death. But what I'm saying is that another society could exist, and I don't think you'll disagree with this, that would not put him to death, that would say what you did was good. So what
It could
he's
exist,
saying
but it doesn't.
is it just that the rights, or what we call human rights, is it just the human rights? Is that the only thing that's stopping me? That there are human rights that were created by humans to protect humans? Is that the only thing that's stopping me? That's what he's asking.
I don't.
Right, he's not posing a question. If you look at the way this letter is framed, and it does look like it could be legit. I think I've probably seen it before. It's not phrased as a question. The question he's not asking is for others to agree with his morality. What Buddy's looking for here is empathy for other people to try to understand what he was, where his head was at. As crazy as it is, this is where my mind went, and how I rationalize those actions. It's not he's not pleading for anything. He's not asking people to be like him. He's just asking for them to understand. It's empathy, and it's even psychopaths at this level, they end up having to experience empathy. Even if they can't have it for other people, they still expect it from other people.
They could call PETA and ask them.
Well, I didn't mean to go off topic, but I just wanted to see what you thought about this. I mean,
my personal thought. Yeah. No, I think that if we're going to have the right to life, that should extend to all living creatures as far as it is practicable. Practicable.
Right. Or
Sorry.
until you get hungry.
Right. We're going to have to kill something to eat it on some level. There's no other way.
So let me ask you this. Let's say an invasion happens. Now, we've been listening and we've been watching the news. If you haven't been paying attention, there were claims from top government officials that there are aliens that exist. And this group of aliens decides that in order for them to survive, they have to colonize our planet. Would they be right or would they be wrong?
Well, by colonizing, do you mean would they be like co-inhabiting our space with us? Would I be able to fuck alien women? I'm sorry, is that allowed? Would I be able to?
No, they kill you. They're like the praying mantis. They're like the praying mantis.
Damn this fucking thing. How'd you go there? Can I have sexual relations with the aliens? Because that's all I really need to know. I can't have. No, they're going to kill me. This is like that movie Species with Natasha Henstridge. She's gonna, what is it? Yeah, she's gonna play coy and then cut my head off. Praying mantis. So okay, going home. Excellent. I have a safe journey home. Silver Wolf. I am not going home right now, but no, yeah, whatever. He's just going like a million different directions now, so I'm kind of just having fun with it. So yeah, good way to end the stream, right?
Praying mantis, all of it.
Gah!
Oh.
No,
now what?
You just gave me a visual that I'll never get rid of. Thank you.
They're all like the praying mantis. All their women are like the praying mantis, and their men are natural born killers. I mean, they'll chop your head off, and that's the way they survive, and that's the way they do. That's right in their culture. In their culture, that's right. So that's the whole point Bundy is making, is that without God, without him, being the moral arbiter of right versus wrong, there is no way to stop a Ted Bundy.
That's not what Bundy's letter said. It didn't say anything like that. Did not convey that message. Is that when you look at that letter, it conveys he's just trying to get other people to see the way he rationalized what he was doing beforehand, right? So actually, it is a bit introspective, and I think Bundy was one of those, and Dahmer, who were notorious for just talking ad nauseum to anybody who would listen to them from a jail cell and just spew whatever nonsense philosophy they had come up with over the course of their fucked up and destructive existences, right? Like, that's what we have from serial killers. It's like, oh, you want to look inside the mind of a serial killer and then go watch a few of those documentaries. It's like, yeah, they could tell you about the worst parts of humanity. That's not most of humanity. I mean, yeah, Bundy never mentioned God. Jill, I don't think he's insane, but I do think he holds some irrational beliefs. I'll get with you there. But yeah, you're being nice. I've heard him say some crazy shit on the internet too, so doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. But yeah, no, Jill's interpretation of that letter I see as completely just out of that's out of his own mind. That's kind of what makes it a little creepier, is that he is spinning that web in his mind, right? But it's only because he adheres to his own Christian worldview.
So you just better hope that you're in a country that has laws that, sort of correspond to scripture.
Well, see, that's why I like natural law, because according to natural law, if I catch Ted Bundy, I just get to fucking kill the guy, and I'm morally right. So that's fine by me.
Now, what does natural law stated with him?
It says I can just kill him. I just off him on his.
So I want to make sure that I clarify. I am joking at this point. I'm just fucking with him in the course of this conversation right now. I do not abide natural law, and what I'm going to say is completely absurd, right? But I also want to point out the fact that he just said, well, thank God we live in a country that has laws that are, like based on, no. Pretty much every country in the world has a law against murder. They're not all based on Christianity. That is a falsehood that Christians make. Even Islamic countries have laws against murder, except in certain cases where they don't call it murder. They call it, whatever they fucking call it. It's like a freaking righteous duty. It's not a jihad. A jihad is a different thing, but they have a word for a righteous killing in Islam, right? Which is religious in origin. So that in of itself is problematic, that you actually have a stipulation where you can kill a person if you're religiously motivated, and it's another, Abrahamic tradition, okay? But let's not go there, right? So no, I don't thank God that I live in a country that's backed by Christian laws, because I think any country that I end up in, inevitably, whether any government, as long as there is a government, they're going to outlaw murder. Like, that's going to be the first thing to off the table. Like, that's every society in the world. Nothing to do with Christianity. No reason to thank God for it.
Him on the spot. As soon as I catch him in the act,
because he's a threat to the society.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, Old Testament law is natural law, because that's what would have happened to him. That's what would have happened to him. He wouldn't have just he wouldn't have had a chance to write this letter. All right, so I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to shut it down now. Thanks everyone for joining.
Hey, thank you for having me, Joe. I appreciate it. And is it okay with you if I mirror this on my channel at some point in the future?
No, sure. Go right ahead. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. You can go right ahead and mirror, do what you need to do with it.
And I would like to say that sometime in the future, I haven't exactly decided when, I would like to do a study on Matthew 19. So if everybody wants to get ready for that, about Jesus talking about people who should become eunuchs.
Okay, I'm in for that one. I'm in for that
Oh
one.
my! Are you gonna?
Am I muted, unmuted? Can't tell. Can't tell. Okay, that does sound interesting. I need to make a note of that. Oh shit, you just missed that whole funny thing I did? That was... See, I'm cursed. I am literally cursed. The demons have cursed me. It's like I just did this funny thing about the 13th circle of ape hell. It was funny in my mind anyway. I don't know. We'll never know because I was muted. Because I'm cursed. Oh, good God, man. We just got to finish this video. Come on. We're having all kinds of technical difficulties now.
Are you gonna do that now, Hillary?
No, not now, but eventually.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Jill wants in. He's in.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm telling Jill, so he can get all his.
I'll bring him
research
with
ready.
me. He's my new mentor. I'll bring him with me.
Well, that's good
Please
to hear.
don't
You're
tell
a good
me.
man.
Please don't tell me you're going to suggest that the eunuch there is a homosexual.
I am going to open it up and see where it leads, because
God.
everyone's going to bring their own research, and then we're going to see where it goes. But homosexual, no, I'm not. I don't believe it.
Or non-binary.
You mean transgender? Why do they? All of them refuse to say the word transgender. Like, it's going to, like, their freaking eyes will pop out of their heads if they just acknowledge the word transgender and try to figure out what it actually means.
Well, that's where we're. Yeah, that's kind of what my research is headed toward.
Oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll be looking out for that. I'll be looking for that one. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Next time I'm live, it'll probably be in about a couple of weeks. And if you want to take the challenge, any one of my challenges, please feel free to come in and take the Jill challenge. Just take one of the challenges. You guys know my challenges. You guys have heard me give these challenges before.
Contradictions in the Bible.
So if you guys want to join me,
the Saudi challenge, which I think is offensive and racist. The Vosh Trump is a racist challenge, which is actually I might take that one. And the biblical slavery challenge, which has been done by everybody and their mothers. And Dr. Josh tackled that one, I think.
Yeah, it'll probably be in a couple of weeks from today. I'm trying not to stream as much.
What is the Saudi challenge? I've not heard of that.
Well, the Saudi challenge, you all know what the contradictions in the Bible challenge is. That was my first stream when I first started YouTube. I started a stream and I said contradictions in the Bible, and it got like 700 views. It's like, oh, there's a lot of people that believe still that there are contradictions in the Bible. There are no contradictions in the Bible. And then the Saudi challenge is, that's obviously not the word I want to say. I can't say it because so I
You
use
mean
the
child
word
marriage?
Saudi. No, I mean sodomite marriage. So I call it the Saudi
Oh,
challenge, for sure.
okay.
Oh, that is totally misleading.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I thought there was a twist to that. So it would be racist and offensive if he's talking about Saudi Arabian people, right? But no, he's actually talking about gay marriage. Okay.
I was
Gotcha,
thinking
gotcha.
Saudi Arabia. I was like,
That's
what?
gotcha.
So you
about Muslims.
so you have to try to get
Yeah.
around the algorithm. And then the YouTube algorithm is watching
Right.
us, especially
What does that consist of? That
well, you have to
challenge.
tune in You have to tune in a couple of weeks, and
Well, how do I know to
How
prepare
can we
for the
take the
challenge
challenge
if you
if
don't
we
tell
know
me
what
what
it
the
is?
topic is? Thank you, Hillary. Yes.
well, the challenge is in the description. So if you want to know what the challenge is,
I am not sodomizing.
Well, Sandy, I think we try to keep that last little bit under wraps, but I guess I'll figure it out eventually.
You do, or anybody else. I am out.
No.
read the
Sorry, Sandy.
description. The challenge is basically to find a doctor that will suggest publicly, licensed, that homosexuality is natural, normal, and healthy. That's the challenge.
I'm pretty sure we can beat that one. Somebody's got to be able to beat that, right? You have a licensed physician that says, yeah, there's nothing wrong with homosexuality. Like there should be plenty of those out there. Has nobody actually beat this challenge? Or is Jill just not accepting their credentials?
No.
And then the Vosh Trump is a racist challenge.
Any evidence?
There's no way I'd take this one. No.
My first video on Modern Day Debate was against a man by the name of Vosh.
I remember that. I did.
Yeah.
I watched that one. That was fun.
I gotta see that.
That was a classic, and I'll be playing clips from that also. And
so that debate, oh my goodness, almost seems like something I should cover on here. That would be hilarious. So the two of them talk past each other. Vosh is completely condescending to Jill, but for good reason. His argument is like, see, I don't even want to get into it right now. But yeah, Vosh did make some irrational statements throughout regarding Trump as far as like virtue signaling shit. Being like, okay, because he would counter the same points in regards to like other people. But when it came to Trump, he went with the whole dog whistling thing, which I was like, yeah, I see. I'm not down with the whole. I know when I'm being targeted covertly by racists, right? And I also know what qualifies as a racist statement. And those are two different things. And if you say the president is covertly targeting racists, you have to have pretty powerful qualifiers. That's not like you're trying to say that this person has enough mental power. How do I even word that? Like Hitler didn't do that himself. He had charisma, but it is a fiction that he achieved power on his own, right? Because what he used were his propagandists, and this is typical of fascists and communists around the world. The actual dictator relies on the propagandists. They don't do the propaganda themselves, right? Trump didn't have that guy until maybe Giuliani. Giuliani was later on in the game, though. He was kind of that guy. Right? But that was way after the fact. Like Trump was doing all that shit on his own.
And he claimed that the debate was, is Trump a racist? And he gave his reasons, and I just shot them all down. And then he concluded that I was a black white supremacist. The same thing they before they called Larry Elder a black white supremacist, they called Jill a black white supremacist. And then my biblical slavery challenge, you all know what that is.
I still don't know whether or not Jill is black. I'm like, it's not actually important, but it's interesting because it keeps getting brought up. And I do remember people calling him a black white supremacist. And I do remember he himself making racist statements on stream. So I remember that part. It actually happened. So
find biblical slavery in the Bible, and I'll leave YouTube. If you can meet any of these challenges, I'll leave YouTube.
Oh, but I didn't want you to do that.
Now you've just, dude. No,
Yeah.
you're not going
I was
anywhere.
kind of ready for the last one, depending on exactly what you mean. But
so don't waste your time. Good night, Sandy. Much love, and enjoy the rest.
That's not a prize we want to win, homie. Come up with a different prize.
No, that's surprise. Surprise is that
well, now that's bullshit. You can't do that because now the people that are going to take it are people that enjoy your show and view your show. Otherwise, they wouldn't know about it.
Right.
And then they're like, "Well, no, what I'm going to do if I do solve it?" You're setting yourself up to filter out.
What should the challenge? What should the reward be? We'll let you make the reward. What should the
now Ape is promoting it. So anybody who's watching Ape's channel who didn't know about you previously, now you've got a wider audience. So you're welcome. Right? That's good logic. I'm helping you.
No, not money.
It's a gift card.
Not money.
40 lashes. 40 lashes?
No.
Oh,
what?
Wow.
Why do you think we want you beaten?
Okay. If anyone can meet any of these challenges, what should the reward or what should my punishment be? If not leaving you,
you should have to
prostrate yourself.
A series of 3 Bible studies with Richard.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
That was actually good. Wait, I want to try and think of one. You make him read how much should we do? Oh, see, I don't have the book. Damn it. See, you should make him read a book on evolutionary biology on stream. That would be but this one's a biblical slavery. So, well, no, okay. So, yeah, none of these are really about evolution. I think if you were to have and fail a challenge regarding your theories on taxonomy and evolution, and you were to fail, you should actually read a book on taxonomy or evolution on stream. I think that would be fitting, but that's just me. I don't know.
Okay. All right, deal. If you can meet any of these challenges,
did Richard agree?
He didn't even agree to it. We can't
just volunteering Richard's time.
You can't do that. Yeah, you can't implicate Richard with. Yeah, you can't.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Okay, but for now, it's I'm leaving YouTube. If you can prove biblical slavery, prove Trump is a racist. Trump is not a racist. Stop the nonsense. Or the Saudi challenge, or any contradictions in the Bible. There are 0 contradictions in the.
I mean, I do think there are traces of. What am I trying to say? Trump does racist shit, but that's not really. I don't think it's because he's himself racist. I think he's catering to a white evangelical audience as part of his shtick, right? So he does racist shit, but he does it mostly in a way that is catering to the people who he feels are his support group, which he's not wrong, right? He is catering to racists. So in that sense, he's racist. But I don't know if he himself is, just predisposed to that. I know there was that instance on Apprentice where he did use the N-word on set and it was recorded. Which they just swept that one under the rug. They're like, well, he was just ticked off that day, so he just started yelling the N-word or something like that. So yeah, that's not, but that's one instance, right? A single instance does not prove a pattern of behavior. Now, in regards to his presidency, right? I think he did things that, whether he knew or not, catered to that white evangelical group, which is largely racist and overtly racist, right? But I don't think he did that for a racist cause. He did that for his own cause, because ultimately Trump is a narcissist. So everything he does is for himself, including the presidency, which is why he's not a good leader, because leadership isn't about you. It's the duh.
In the Bible, 0.
That's why God's not a good leader.
Okay, thanks.
Does it matter which version of the Bible?
Doesn't matter
question.
what.
Which version?
Which version of the Bible?
Yes. Yes, it
does.
Yeah.
Which one does it? It's got to be the 1611, whatever 16, whatever King James.
No, you can't try to isolate one interpretation and say, or one, or yeah, you can't. No, I would say the Bible. Period. I would. But yeah, if you have an like for instance, Easter isn't in King James Bible. It's not a contradiction, but it shouldn't be there. But no, I mean an actual contradiction. So what do you mean, like the translations? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, like between the KJV or the New English, or I've got the New World Translation now.
It's actually a pretty straightforward fucking question. But all right, whatever. I'm here for it, right? Yeah, which fucking version of the Bible? You know exactly what the fuck I'm asking you. I have to specify. Do you have a favorite version of the Bible? You might say something slightly different. It might be relevant in the fucking conversation. Now, look, do you know what I'm talking about?
Now, so okay. I guess that's Jehovah's Witness.
Well,
I don't know if that's significantly different.
Well, I'll explain what I mean by contradiction. Obviously, if you have two translations, that one dynamic and one that is word for word, it may appear like
they all claim to be word for word, except for the new English version, right? The rest of them all just claim to be better translations than the last one, right? So it's like, okay, so what do I need? The one that has the translation from Hebrew and Greek and all that? What do I need to accomplish this challenge? What are the tools?
like it's a contradiction. For instance, a dynamic translation would translate this sentence the same way or a different way. Sally's one of the coolest girls in the school. A dynamic translation will translate it as Sally is very popular at her school, even though there's no the word.
Okay, but that's a completely false equivalent. You have differences in whether you're talking about whether eunuchs are like asexual people or people who have been physically altered and brought up in such a way that they are rendered without basically identity in regards to things like, well, pretty much anything, right? Because in certain instances, you're talking about people in the Bible who we know historically have basically been stripped of their identities and made lifelong slaves. And for that reason, they're physically altered and obviously psychologically manipulated for the duration of their existence, right? That could be a eunuch, but there could also be a eunuch who chooses to prostrate himself before the king of whatever nation and blah, 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 right? At an older age or something, maybe. And then there's other examples. So when you're talking about slavery and different terms in biblical slavery, you talk about there's two different types of slavery. You have the chattel slavery and then the other slavery, right? And you have different instances where God commands that you keep slaves and treat slaves and obtain slaves in a certain way. But if we don't define those slaves as all being the same type of slave, well, then we have different treatments and keeping practices of different slaves at different places at different times, right? So it's all significant.
The word popular is not found. A word for word would just translate it to where it would say Sally is cold. She's the coldest, right? So that's not an error. It's just a word. It's a different way. It's a word for word translation.
It's a colloquialism.
The dynamic translation would be what we would look to, or we would get a lexicon to find out what cold meant to someone living in the 80s as opposed to the 50s. So
okay, and so what you mean the direct contradiction in statements between two passages.
Right.
Okay.
I believe. Right. I'm saying like, okay, John says that Jesus died or Jesus died at this time, and Matthew says, no, Jesus didn't die at that time, he died at this time. That type of contradiction.
You know, Jill's setting people up.
Of course, you know I'm setting them up, all right, because they need to repent or die.
If you reject Christ, then the moment you take your first step through the gates of hell, the only thing you will hear is all of creation standing to its feet and applauding and praising God because God has rid the earth of you.
I take full responsibility.
I'm an ape. We all come from apes, but I don't throw ape in every conversation. Use ape to define myself. Use ape as an excuse to defecate in my thumbless mitt and then hurl it at you. I'm sorry, did I just splatter you with wet feces? I'm sorry, I have a very rich ape upbringing, a strong ape heritage. I'm an ape.
Well, that was pretty weird. But yeah, anyway, got that one out of the way. So I did extend the invite to William Freeman out here publicly because I don't have his contact info. So, whatever. We can have a convo about it later because I think there's still a topic based in science and not religion that we need to cover there. But that's a kind of a different subject from what we're talking about with Jill, and we're going to cover on the next one, covering the conversation at the beginning of this whole thing between Jill and myself. There's still more there. But basically, William, the challenge is out there, bro. Teach me about selective breeding, and we can talk about it. But other than that, I was just having fun tonight. Finally got something accomplished. I got my flu shot, as I mentioned earlier. So I'll probably be a little down tomorrow. I don't know if there will be a stream. Need to, but anyway. Oh, you have them on Google. I see. Well, next time I'll ask you, Silver. Have the appropriate channels available. So, all good, all bueno. Yeah. The end was kind of floppy, but we got there. So, be well. Have a good night, and I'll try to do the same. And we'll reconvene when we do. And I'll see you soon.